Hello everyone, this is Ashwin. Welcome to this episode in which we are going to understand how to install C and C++ with GCC compiler on Windows platform. So let us get started. I'm going to use an implementation of compiler known as MinGW, and to be very specific, I'm going to use a fork of that MinGW. It is known as MinGW-w64. And let us go ahead and visit that URL. So let's copy it, open the browser, and in this browser I'm going to paste the homepage URL of MinGW-w64. So let us go ahead and install MinGW. Now there must be a section for downloads. So here we have the download section, and let us see what we can install. So I guess we have to install here MinGW builds for Windows. Okay. So the heart of MinGW-w64 project is headers and support libraries to run the output of GCC on Windows. Since MinGW-w64 is neither the home of GCC nor the binutils, several sets of installation packages which combine them are available. In addition, the sources are available, but most people will want to go grab the binaries directly. So we can go ahead and grab the binaries. Let us see how to install it on Windows. So here we have the version, and let us see if there is any version for Windows. Yeah, I could see actually one version for Windows, which is MinGW-w64 builds. Okay. So if I click this and click here on the source forge, it should actually download MinGW-w64 for 32 and 64-bit Windows. Okay, I guess we have the installation file, and let us open the downloads folder, and let me remove the rest of the stuff. Let's go ahead and install this MinGW-w64. Basically, it will install a version of GCC compiler on Windows platform. So it reads, welcome to MinGW-w64 installation. Let us go ahead and install it. Okay, now it is actually asking us the details of installation. And here I'm going to choose x86_64. And here I'm going to choose the POSIX library. Okay. And I'm going to keep everything as it is. Okay. So there are options for earlier versions too, but we are going to install the latest one. Now let us go ahead and click next, and let us see what happens. Okay, here is the destination folder. So it reads C:program files MinGW-w64 x86_64 -8.1.0 POSIX_SSH hyphen something. Okay, so we are just going to go ahead and remember this particular destination folder because we are going to need it. And if I click next now, it is going to launch the installation process. Basically, it is going to copy the file from that compressed file to the local disk of my Windows computer. And it is definitely going to take quite a while for this installation to finish. So I'm going to skip the part where we are going to wait for this installation to finish. So the installation is complete, and let us go ahead. Okay, let us click finish. So it is not going to pop up any sort of fancy program. We will have to browse the file system now in order to locate where it has been installed. I hope that you have noted down the directory of installation. So I have been working with this tool for quite some time now, and I remember the directory where it installs MinGW-64 by default. So we have to go to C: and program files, and here we have to check for MinGW-64. Yes, here we have the MinGW-w64. And here we will have one directory for every version and every architecture. So we have here combination of architecture as well as version as well as thread model. So the computer architecture is x86-64, the version is 8.1.0 and the thread model is POSIX. And after that also we had a couple of options. So all that option, everything is going to have a single directory. So if you actually choose to install it again with some other option, then it is going to create another directory in the same directory MinGW-w64. Now in this particular directory, there is a directory known as MinGW-w64, and here we will have the bin directory where we are going to find the GCC compiler. So if you search, then you will find the files for GCC and GCC AR, okay, and G++. So these are the files that are going to compile your C and C++ program for your x86 64-bit system. So let me copy this entire directory path. Let me minimize everything. Now go to this PC or type in here this PC and right click this, click properties. Now here you can go to the advanced system settings and click here environment variables. So there is a variable in the user variables for Ashwin. It is known as path. So double click that and click new, and here you can go ahead and paste that particular path. Click OK. Go to the system variables to double click path and click new and paste here the path. Click OK. Again click OK. OK, and close everything. So I'm going to close all the directories. And now we are ready to go with GCC on Windows. So the best way to check that is go to command prompt. So this is the command prompt of Windows, and I will just type in GCC -- version. So it is going to show me the version. It is GCC x86-64 POSIX and SEH revision 0, built by MinGW-w64 project. Similarly, G++ -- version, and it is going to show us the similar information for G++ compiler also. So GCC is the compiler for C and G++ is the compiler for your C++ programs. You can even run them in PowerShell. So this is the PowerShell interface for Windows. I will say GCC -- version, and it is going to return the same information plus G++ -- version. Let us clear this. Has it installed also the CC compiler? Let us check version. No, CC is not recognized, and C++. Okay, so I guess it has installed the C++ compiler also -- version. Okay, it is pointing to the same file. Now Windows's command prompt as well as PowerShells are okay tool, but if you are more familiar with Unix-like operating systems like Mac OS or FreeBSD or Debian distributions of Linux like Ubuntu, Debian, and Raspberry Pi OS, then you will not be really very much comfortable with PowerShell or command prompt. You can then go ahead and install a tool known as Cygwin. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this URL. This is the homepage of Cygwin tool, and I will paste it here. Let us go ahead and download that Cygwin tool. And here must be the installation instructions for Windows. Okay, so here we have the setup file for x86-64, and it has instantly downloaded. Let us run it. So it must be some sort of standard installation wizard. So it is taking some time to launch it. So it is asking me for admin privileges. And okay, so this is the Cygwin. Wow. So this is the setup version 2.9.09. So I'm not sure what it means. So is it the version for the installer package, or let us see what it is. So install from internet. Okay, so I'm going to say install from internet, and let us go ahead and install it on Cygwin 64. And I'm going to install it for all users, and I already provided the admin privileges. So it shouldn't ask me again for admin privileges. Okay, so it is actually asking me for the local package directory. Probably it is going to go ahead and download from the internet all the files required for this. Okay, so it is asking me for the mirror site, and it has highlighted one mirror. So I'm going to download it from that mirror. Okay, cool. It is parsing, or is it downloading? I'm not sure. Oh, wow. So we have got here the Cygwin setup. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click next. So basically it is going to install all the utilities that are Linux-like utilities for Windows. So I will click next and let it go ahead and install it. Okay. And probably it is going to take some time for the installation to finish, because the progress is very, very slow. So it is still downloading. It is not actually installing anything. So I guess this entire process is going to take some time for download and installation to finish. So I'm just going to skip to the part where it has finished downloading and the installation. So it seems to have finished the installation process, and it took quite a while for it to download and install all the required utilities. So now I'm going to add the icon of Cygwin to the start menu, and then I'm going to click finish. And here we can see the symbol of Cygwin 64 terminal. Now we have got MinGW-w64 for GCC, and Cygwin, which is a command line like tool for Windows system. So basically it emulates a lot of commands of Unix like systems on Windows operating system. Since I have been programming with this Linux stuff for last 20 years, I naturally feel more comfortable with Linux or Unix like environment. Now I'm going to go to the directory where I have stored the sample files. In case you are wondering where to find this particular file as well as the sample file, then please check the description section of this episode and you are going to find this file. Basically, I have uploaded this file and all the other examples on the GitHub repository, and I'm just going to browse through the local copy of that. So here we have the local copy of everything. So I'm going to close it for a moment and I'm going to say 00 setup, and I'm going to move all the files to this particular directory so that it will be easier for you. So let me reopen that file because we are yet to install a few more programs, and let me copy this. Now I will open that Cygwin 64 utility. So let me double click this, and here we have the command prompt of Cygwin 64. Now let me increase the font size so that you all can see what is being typed by me. And here we can type in the commands like echo dollar shell, and it is going to tell us what shell it is using, and pwd. So it is the present working directory. So let me clear it. So this is simply Unix like interface, and let us switch to the directory where I am storing everything. And now if I hit enter, it should actually take me to that directory. No. Okay, so probably I will have to provide single quotes or double quotes, I don't know. Okay, so now we are in the tutorials directory. So pwd, and here we have the path of the directory where we have stored all the examples, and the file where the download is mentioned. Now I will show you these two files. So this one is prog00.c and prog00.cpp, and we can see the contents of these files by running the cat utility. So prog00.c, and these are the contents of this C file. Similarly, we have cpp file like this. Now I'm going to tell you how to compile and execute the programs with GCC and Cygwin. So now first of all, we need to type in the command for compilation, and that command is GCC WALL. W is capital, it means that enable all the warnings. STD, it stands for C standard. So I'm going to say C2X, and the name of the file, it is prog00.c. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this command and paste it here, and it is going to compile that file, and let us see what happens. Okay, it says that unrecognized command line option. So I will delete this command line option. So let it compile that file. Okay, it seems that the file has been compiled, and let me delete that command line option from here too. So after the file has been compiled, it will automatically generate an executable file, and we can see that executable file probably here in that directory a.exe, and I can just type in here ./a.exe, and it should run that program. So here we can see the output hello world from a.exe. So in Unix like systems, it generates a.out. So here in Windows, it generates a.exe. Now I can just go ahead and delete rm a.exe, and that file has been removed from this particular directory. Now I will compile that C++ program that we were talking about, and here is the command for compilation. So G++ -wall and std equals to C++20, and if I hit enter, it should, okay, again it is not actually recognizing C++20. So let us say C++2a, and if I hit enter, it should be able to compile that program without any hitch. So let me copy this, and let us go ahead and yes, this is awesome. So we have compiled a C++ program with G++ compiler, and we can also, I guess, use C++ program to compile it. C++ or lowercase c++, because I guess in Windows the uppercase and lowercase doesn't matter. So it must have generated an exe file a.exe, and we can just run that a.exe./a.exe, and it is able to execute that program and print hello world for us in this directory. So I will just go ahead and copy this and paste it here so that you can use it for your further reference. Let me clear the screen. And so this is all about downloading MinGW-w64 compiler and Cygwin environment, and you will have the Unix-like programming feel. Now you can also use some sort of IDE. So the very first IDE that we are going to use is code blocks. So let me go ahead and download the setup for that code blocks. Let's open a browser window like this and let us paste it here. And let us go ahead and download the code blocks IDE. And let us download the nightly build. Now I don't see any download stuff. Okay, so here we have the download the binary release. Sorry, we are not going to download a nightly build because it might be unstable. So let us go ahead and download the binary release. Okay, here we have the version for Windows XP Vista 7, 8.x and 10. So currently I'm using the stuff for Windows 10. I have installed Windows 10 on this computer. And here we have code blocks 20.03 setup.exe. And it seems that there is a version of code blocks setup file with MinGW compiler also, but we really don't want to use MinGW compiler because we already have got MinGW-w64 fork of it. So we are going to go ahead and visit the sourceforge.net link for this code blocks 20.03 setup.exe. And there is a setup file for non-admins also, but we are not actually going to go ahead with that. And there seems to be a zip file also. But if we are going to go ahead with this setup file, because we have admin privileges, it is going to register that application in the Windows registry and it will be good for us. So I'm going to go ahead and download this thing. Okay. And another IDE for Windows that can be used with GCC is VS Code. And I'm going to demonstrate that once we are done with the current setup of the code blocks. So it is now downloading the code blocks IDE and it is only of 37.7 MB and it is going to take a few moments for us to download it on this computer. As soon as the download finishes, I am going to open that download and then I am going to demonstrate how to install that particular IDE. Basically, it is an integrated development environment where you can mention the name of the compiler tools, debuggers and everything. And then you can build, compile and run your program with just a single click. And it is a very, very exciting thing. So meanwhile, let us see if we have Nano installed on this. No. So Nano is a command line based text editor, very famous in Unix-like systems. So let us exit this and let us wait for the download to finish. So the setup file for code blocks 20.03 has been downloaded in the download directory and we can open it by visiting the downloads option in our browser. And if we click that file, it is going to launch the installation process. Now it is asking me for the admin credentials. Now let me close this browser window meanwhile. And it is saying welcome to the code blocks setup. So let's click next. I agree. And yes, let's install everything. So I don't use this code blocks very frequently. I use VC++ and Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So for Microsoft Visual Studio Code installation and configuration with GCC, stay tuned to this episode. In the later part of this episode, we are going to set up, download, install this Visual Studio Code, as well as we are going to link it with the GCC compiler of MinGW-w64 that we have just downloaded and installed. So the installation of this code blocks is very fast. So it will just conclude in a moment. And yes. So now it is asking us, do you want to run code blocks now? I will just go ahead and say yes and let us see what happens. Okay, it is launching the code blocks IDE. So it says that the open source cross platform IDE. So it means that it is open source as well as it can be used with various platforms. And if I click next, it should conclude the installation process. So launching is actually taking a lot of time, and okay, so I'm just going to wait for the program to respond because I don't want to interrupt the process where we are seeing that it is doing some sort of setup. Probably it is doing this because it is launching very first time. Okay, so here we have the interface of the code blocks. Now I'm going to open a file. Okay, so let us go ahead and see how we can open a file. Okay, so let me go to the desktop, and here we can access the D colon. Where is the D colon? Okay, this PC, and here we should have the D colon where I have the local copy of all of my GitHub code, and it is my GitHub. It is not your GitHub. It's everyone's GitHub. Okay, so here we have the setup, and here we have a C file. Now here we have opened a C file. Now we need to check the compiler options, and we need to set the compiler. So go to the settings and click on the compiler, and it is going to launch a window for GNU-GCC compiler. Okay, so here we can see various options, and here we have the option for Microsoft Visual C++ and GNU-GCC compiler. Where is the option for GNU-GCC compiler? Okay. So here we have the option for GNU-GCC compiler, and we can set the toolchain executables. Okay. Okay, so we have to set the compiler's installation directory. First of all, we will make a note of all the files here. Okay, so here we have to provide it the executable file for C compiler, C++ compiler, and linker for dynamic libs, which is also G++, and ar.exe, and gdb cdb debugger default, and windres.exe. So better take a screenshot of this, print screen. And the screenshot has been taken. Let me open Paint. So it's a bit weird. We are using Paint for our compiler related stuff. Okay, so I'm going to keep this thing safe. And now I'm going to click Auto Detect. Okay, so it has auto detected the installation path for GNU-GCC compiler in C:\program files MinGW-w64 and this directory and MinGW-w64, and I'm going to say okay. Okay, fine. Now we are supposed to provide the paths for all these things. Okay, so now if I click on these three dot symbol, it should actually open the bin directory, and if I say go to one directory earlier, then yeah, so I guess it has already found all the required executables, and it has automatically detected and set all those required executables. Okay, because we have got this MinGW C++ and MinGW GCC, this MinGW-w64 set of tools only in one directory, so it auto detected the directory and it automatically fetched the names of all those executables, and probably we can find all these executables in that particular folder. Okay, GCC, G++, AR. Basically this is the linker for static libraries, and here we have windres.exe and MinGW32 make.exe. Now I'm going to click OK, and here we are in the code file. Okay, and we can increase the size of the font by keeping the control key on our keyboard pressed and then scrolling the mouse wheel up or down. Okay, so here we have the program, and let us go ahead and build it. So I'm not sure how to build it. It has been quite a while since I have built anything. And if I click on build, what will happen? Will it compile the program? Yeah, I guess it is compiling the program, and here it says that the process, okay, so let us increase the size of the font here also, and it is quite possible by again the same process. You just highlight this particular section, and here we can see the build log, and just keep the control key on your keyboard pressed and scroll the mouse wheel up or down to adjust the font. It says process terminated with status 0. It means that it was successful. So it just only took 3 seconds on my modern processor to compile this program. Now, if I click this triangle symbol, green triangle, it is the run button. And then there is build and run. So we will just go ahead and click run. Okay, cool. So it is showing me hello world. So the font is quite small, but still it is actually showing us the output. And if I hit any key, it is going to continue. So the process terminated with status 0. And there is a single button for compiling and running the program. So build and run. Okay, so it has launched the executable file for that. And if I hit enter, it is going to stop. Okay, and I will just close this file now. So it automatically detected that it is a C file and automatically fed it to the right compiler. So here we can see the command line log. It is invoking gcc.exe for compiling this file. And it is automatically generating that output file program00.o. So if you visit that directory, then you will see that program00.exe and program00.o. So it's a object file probably. I don't know how this code blocks compiles everything. Now let me open the C++ file and we will compile and execute it. So this time we are not going to do anything. We will directly. So let us clear contents of the build log and let us directly go ahead and build and run in a single go. Meanwhile, let us increase the font size. So if I do this, yeah, so it is automatically detecting that it's a C++ file because we have provided the C++ extension for the program, and it is automatically using that G++ compiler. Okay, so that is cool. So this is how we can install and set up the code blocks IDE on Windows, and this is how we can link that code blocks IDE with a GCC compiler installed on our Windows system. Now next we are going to see how to work with Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is a very popular free IDE that is an integrated development environment by Microsoft for the programming languages like C, C++, C#, and Python. It supports many other programming languages and scripting languages. So let us see how to download it and how to install it. Code.visualstudio.com is the URL of the downloadable page of this IDE, and it is mentioned down below in the description section of this video. Now we are going to go ahead and download it for Windows. Now if you want to download it for other operating systems, those options are also available. We have download for Mac OS, then we have download for Linux x64 systems. We have downloadable in deb format for Debian and the distributions that are descendants of Debian like Ubuntu and Raspberry Pi OS, as well as we also have the RPM. So here in our case, we are interested in Windows x64. So I'm just going to go ahead and install this. Okay, it seems that the download has started and it is around 76.2 MB of download. So we will wait for it to finish. And okay, it seems that it has been downloaded. So it must be a setup file. So let us click it and see what it is. Okay, now we have to click this run. It might ask us for admin privileges. I'm not sure. So it should soon launch an installation. Yes. So I accept the agreement. Then I click next. Okay. Visual Studio Code. Next. Let's create a desktop icon. Okay. And let's click next. So we will not actually check any other boxes. So the two boxes that I'm leaving out are add open with code action to Windows Explorer file context menu and add open with code action to Windows Explorer directory context menu. So it means that whenever we are going to click, to be very specific, right click, then it is going to show both these options in the menu. And we really don't want very long menus. That's why I'm not checking these. So let me click next. Now it is going to go ahead and copy the files. And it is going to take a moment to copy the files for this installer. So meanwhile, we can check the website. So here we can see various extensions, and yeah, it has got actually extensions for Python, Jupyter, C, C++, Pylons, ESLint, I'm not sure what it is, Prettier, Code Formatter, Live Server, and Visual Studio IntelliCo something. And there is actually a very good library of introduction videos and all. And there seem to be keyboard shortcuts also for all the actions that we are going to perform with Visual Studio Code. And okay, and there is some privacy policy. So I'm just going to go ahead and click yes, because I find that this documentation is helpful. Okay, so I'm just going to skip it. Okay, and now I'm just going to click finish. So this is the main window of the Visual Studio Code. It will take a moment to appear because I am opening it very first time. Okay, so this is from the earlier installation, I guess, the settings. So this is my project, C++ threads. Basically, it is a directory where we have another subdirectory known as .vs code. So here in this .vs code directory, we save all of our setting files. So basically there are 4 setting files: c_cpp properties.json, launch.json, settings.json, and tasks.json. And here in the master directory, we save all the programs. So this is how we can install and work with Microsoft Visual Studio Code IDE. So we have installed Microsoft Visual Studio Code on our Windows computer. Now let us see how we can link it with our MinGW C and C++ compilers, and how we can compile and execute the sample programs that we have for C and C++. So I have the directory opened here where we have stored our sample programs, and we had executed the same programs manually with GCC and G++ on Cygwin, and we also had used code blocks IDE earlier to execute these programs in a bit automated way. Now I have deleted all the temporary files the earlier executions generated so that we can start clean with that. Now in order to open this thing in Visual Studio Code, just copy this entire URL and open any command line interpreter. So you can use either cmd.com, the command prompt of Windows, or PowerShell, or you can use our trusted Cygwin thing. Okay, so I will use Cygwin terminal, or this is related to Microsoft Visual Studio Code, so it will be more appropriate to use PowerShell. Okay, so we are just using the only Microsoft toolchain. So you can also use Cygwin, it is not a problem. So let us mention the entire path or the absolute path of the directory, and let us switch to that directory. Let me clear the screen and type in the command pwd. So this is the present working directory. So now we are in this directory in the command prompt as well as in the file system explorer. Now let me increase the font of PowerShell console So basically you have to keep the control key pressed and then scroll mouse wheel up and down. So I guess it is same across almost all the tools. Now in order to open this thing with Microsoft Visual Studio Code, I need to type in a command, and that command is code and dot. And if I hit enter, and let me mention this command in the document, see, it has actually opened that entire directory in Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So before I forget, I will mention that command here, code dot, and let me save this document and let me close this document because there is nothing more to be added in this document as of now. So it is asking me, do you trust the authors of the files in this folder? So I will just say, check the box, and I will say, yes, I trust the authors, because it might be opening some sort of harmful programs too. So now this entire directory opened in the Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Now I want to link Microsoft Visual Studio Code with GCC or that MinGW-w64 toolchain, and that is quite easy. So I will go to a sample directory where I have already done the settings, and here we have the directory .vs code. So I'm going to copy this directory. So please don't worry about the availability of this directory because it is available in the GitHub repository that I'm going to mention in the description section of this video. So what's wrong? Let's copy this directory. Let's copy and paste here. So it should paste that .vs code directory. So basically your project should have a directory known as .vs code. Okay, so it is starting with a dot and then vscode. And now if I check in my Visual Studio Code, that directory is visible. So let us open that here, and here you can see the 4 files. So basically I had created 4 files. Those are c_cpp_properties.json, launch.json, settings.json, and tasks.json. So basically these are standard files, and they are used to link your compiler with Microsoft Visual Studio Code. So here you are going to mention all the compilers, and here we have the JSON file. So here in the name section, we have Win64 MinGW-w64, and here in the compiler path, we have the name of the file, okay, g++.exe compiler path, and here we have the C standard, and here we also have the CPP standard, and IntelliSense mode is Windows GCC x64. Similarly, here we have the launch.json, and here also we have the path. So this CWD is there, and here we have to mention the name of the binary directory for our MinGW-w64 setup. Okay, so here we have to mention the debugger path, the gdb.exe, and here we have the settings.json. Basically this settings file will have the editor font size, terminal integrated font size, and debug console font size. So I have set everything to 26, and tasks.json. So here in the task.json we have the command, okay, and again we have the CWD here, the path of the binary directory. So you can manually set all these paths, or you can just go ahead and copy this VS Code folder in your directory and then type in code dot in the command prompt by switching to that particular directory in command prompt, and your entire programming environment will be set up. In case you have installed it to non-default location, just make sure that you are going to change this path and it will automatically detect everything else. So this is how we can set up and link the C and C++ compilers of GCC toolchain with Microsoft Visual Studio Code. Now the last thing remaining is that we are supposed to execute that program, and this is the program, okay? And so should I go ahead and change the font size? What do you say? Let's make it 30, 30 and 30. So let us save it. So all these files are available for download, and the name for or the URL for that download folder and GitHub repository is mentioned in the description section of this episode down below. So please do check the description section so that you can download this file and copy them in your location, and it will be a hassle-free setup for all of you. So now let us switch to that C file. Let us close all the other files. Now I will go and say start debugging, and it is going to go ahead and debug that program. Okay, it says that build finished successfully, and it is building it now. Okay, so it seems that debug console exited normally. Okay, so it has exited with code 0. It means that it was successful. Now we can run this program. Okay, it has already run the program. Okay, and it says hello world. Okay, and we can just go ahead and run. Okay, when we say, I guess, start debugging, it will automatically debug and run the program. And here in the terminal, we can see the output. Okay, and here we have the debug console, and here we have the output in the terminal. So this is how it is executing a C program. And let us close this and let us check the C++ thing. Okay, now it has created one executable file prog00.exe in the setup folder that we have. So I should actually probably delete it so that there shouldn't be any confusion. Now let us open that CPP file, C++ file, and it is also highlighting the syntax. Now I will just click run and say start debugging. So it is again debugging the thing, and okay, now it is going to execute it. Okay, now it has printed hello world, and this is very cool because we can just compile and execute everything in a single go. And here you can see prog00.exe file. So I'll just go ahead and delete that file, and I will say move to recycle bin. Okay, so this is how we can build and run C and C++ programs with Microsoft Visual Studio Code and MinGW-w64 GCC toolchain on Windows platform. So this is very convenient for all the users because this way we can demonstrate a lot of C and C++ programs.